All right, let's call this meeting to order. It's Board of Selectmen, regular meeting for May 10th, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll begin, as we always do, with public audience. Two ways to participate in public audience. One is in person, virtually. You can send an email to Tom Fitzgerald ahead of our meeting, and you'll get a link to the Zoom meeting. His email is tfitzgerald@simsbury-ct.gov. You can also send us an email, and we'll read it. You can send that email to Erica Butler. She's our town clerk, ebutler@simsbury-ct.gov. And we've received 3 emails that we'll read tonight. The first is from Diane Nash. How wide the Board of Finance missed their mark. From start to finish, the public hearing, if it met legal standards, met none of the standards of past practice. The public was not heard. Letters submitted were not read. Summarized as to the number, but too many to read. And quoting here, and in the future, we are going to need to do something about this, end quote. Clearly meaning it is inconvenient to hear from the public if there are too many who want to be heard. Yet Linda Schofield chided the public for not being engaged in the budget process and vote, since only 6% of the eligible voters vote at a budget referendum time. Therefore, her solution was 6 informed members' decision was preferable to 6% of what she categorized as special interest voters. The members of the Board of Finance would not bring Meadowood to a vote, much less bring it to the public for a vote. Rob Pomeroy's speech/explanation of the Board of Finance job, their years of experience, their rationale for the term of office, and somehow hoisting the blame for the public's outcry on the Selectmen has demonstrated how removed he and others on this Board of Finance are from what it is the voters of Simsbury expect from them. The Board of Selectmen adhered to the guidelines imposed by the Board of Finance, made choices and decisions for inclusions to stay within those parameters, but rejected out of hand without a vote, without consideration. The right of petitioning to bring a project to referendum exists just for instances where the Board of Finance doesn't hear clearly the will of the people. In this case, the referendum date was chosen at the earliest possible date, making the gathering of the necessary petition signatures a Herculean task. The responsiveness of the selectmen and the town personnel to enable this to be included in the budget referendum, a cost-effective thing to do, was and is applauded. Perhaps the learned lesson is not that the voters of Simsbury do not understand the role of the Board of Finance, but that the members of the Board of Finance do not understand the role of the Board of Finance. That's from Diane Nash.
All right, Eric, I think I'm up next. These comments are from Joan Coe. Board of Selectmen meeting, May 10th, 2021. Cancel culture has permeated into the public audience section of the Board of Selectmen under the direction of Town Manager Maria Capriola and First Selectman Eric Wellman. At the April 24th, 2021 meeting of the Board of Selectmen, First Selectman Eric Wellman, during the public audience section of the agenda, mentioned the names of people who sent their comments to be read aloud or were present at the Zoom meeting. When my comments were to be read, First Selectman Eric Wellman did not mention my name, although it was past practice to name the person whose comments were to be read. Wellman stated, and now Wendy will read the next submission without mentioning my name. This is a continual pattern of quote cancel culture where there are divisive comments, when there are divisive comments. Picture submissions have been ignored and not shown, although this is part of the narrative. The Board of Selectmen and Town Manager Maria Capriola have abused their power. First Selectman Eric Wellman is running for the Board of Selectmen, but not First Selectman. Winnie Maxdutis is running for First Selectman. The other selectmen have not committed to run at this time. Simsbury needs new faces on the Board of Selectmen that believe in the constitutional rights of the people. Will the cancel culture continue under Wendy's term? The Police Commission also practices cancel culture when Commissioner Mike Long stated that he is suspending public audience as an agenda item. All the other commissioners, Chairman Jennifer Caulfield, Tim Fogarty, Tanisha Grant, and Travis Schweitzer voted unanimously to suspend public audience at the Police Commission meetings. Commissioner Tanisha Grant is a member of the Spirit Council, where their mission is inclusion and diversity. Commissioner Tanisha Grant's vote for suspending public audience was neither allowing inclusion of speech or diversity of opinion. Town Manager Maria Caparella has stated that all requests for public information must go through an FOI request. I've sent my request to the manager's office, and there are over 10 requests that remain to be fulfilled. On May 5th, 2021, I received the resignation letter that Corey Thomas, the first Black officer, wrote after both Chief Bolter and Officer Corey Thomas thought it was a perfect fit. Corey Thomas transferred from the New Britain Police Department and resigned only a few weeks into the Simsbury Police Department. Corey Thomas stated, in quote, I do believe that officers who transfer in from other departments should be given the benefit of the doubt in more instances as to not make them feel as if they are recruits again, end quote. We have had many officers transfer from various departments. Are these officers encouraged to share their experiences and are treated with respect? May has been designated Bike Safety Month. As I drive around Simsbury, the bicyclists do not stop at stop signs. Since this is a public safety concern, I have asked the Simsbury Police Department to enforce the laws when bicyclists run through stop signs. There have been rumors surrounding the termination of Lorenzo millage contract at the indoor-outdoor track position at Simsbury High School. Rumors were circulating that Lorenzo Millage remained as a security guard where he served for many years. Rumors also circulated that Lorenzo was going to take action against the Simsbury High School administrators with a complaint with the CHRO, Connecticut Human Rights and Opportunities. On April 20th, 2020, an affidavit of discriminatory practice was filed with the CHRO. The administrators named in the affidavit are Jeff Piney, the athletic director, Neil Sullivan, the human resources, and Steve Petrina, principal of Simsbury High School. It appears that DCF was investigating alleged wrongdoing and that Lorenzo Millage filed a report with the Simsbury Police Department responding to allegations made against him. In the April 7, 2020 letter, Mr. Sullivan stated, quote, regardless of the ultimate DCF findings, we are terminating your contract as the indoor track coach and the outdoor track coach. And then there are periods. You will be allowed to continue your assignment as a security guard for the Simsbury Public Schools. More periods. The question continues to be asked: if the complaints were of such danger to children, why was he allowed to remain in the position of security guard where he comes in contact with these same children? There are many allegations in the 16-page affidavit that has not been resolved. There is an ongoing claim against the Simsbury Public Schools, while Lorenzo Millage remains a security guard at the Simsbury High School. If anyone is interested in reading the entire affidavit, I have included a link in my comments, and there is a link to a Dropbox. All of my comments will be posted on Simsbury Patch, Twitter at JoanCo, and Facebook.
Okay, our final email tonight comes from Nancy Yiannopoulos, 3 Woodley Place, Weetag, currently a member of Greater Hartford Interfaith Action Alliance Affordable Housing Subcommittee at First Church and Simsbury Inclusive Neighborhood Development Coalition. It's been noted that Simsbury has a significant stock of naturally occurring affordable houses. NOAA is the acronym commonly used for these non-deed restricted but affordable homes. However, we still need options for people who would like to live here but are not in a position to buy a house. Rental offerings at a lower price range, for example, around $800 to $1,000 a month, are extremely limited. This means people who work in lower paying jobs, including many essential workers, have difficulty moving to or staying in Simsbury. High-end apartment complexes have been built at a fast pace recently in this town. Some feel these developments are built too densely and do not fit in with the town aesthetic, and most have not included affordable units. There are state and local agencies with funding that can help support development of more affordable rental housing, including renovating existing complexes, converting buildings that are not currently used for apartments, as well as building high-quality, affordable, and well-planned mixed-use complexes. Broader use of ADUs has been recognized as another way to meet the rental needs of our town's residents. Local control has been brought up as an important factor in the planning for our town. I have a deep respect for the leadership of this town and the people who work hard on various committees. Unfortunately, the lack of progress in affordable housing in Simsbury, including the slow pace in establishing an affordable housing task force, is discouraging to residents who've been raising concerns over the past several months. My sincere hope is that an affordable housing task force can be put to work as soon as possible. Research should be done to determine what's needed now with projections for the future. The task force would ideally have members who are well-versed in real estate, current local and regional regulations, who can connect with developers interested in projects that make sense for our town, and who can work with groups of concerned citizens. Simsbury could and should be a leader, offering a model of affordable housing that other towns look to as a positive example of how to respond to this need. Again, this letter was from Nancy Yiannopoulos. Just wanted to check and see if we had anybody joining our meeting tonight for a public audience. I don't believe so, looking at our names. Okay. So we have perhaps a record, 4 presentations tonight. The first, we will begin with a presentation from Chief Bolter on traffic safety and enforcement. And this stems from the fact that we've heard from a higher number of people than usual, number of residents with concerns about the speed that people drive on our roads. And I thought it would be helpful for this board to hear what steps the police take when traffic concerns are raised, how those concerns are evaluated and prioritized. And of course, we can open it up for questions. So Chief, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. I want to see if I can share my screen here. Okay, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep, okay, great. So good evening and thank you for having me here. I appreciate it. And I'll just briefly present some information on a couple aspects of one of our main priorities, and that's traffic safety. So it's the responsibility of all sworn members in various assignments to address traffic safety concerns by education, prevention, and enforcement. And let's take a closer look at traffic issues and our enforcement and prevention efforts. Officers assigned to a patrol function respond to and investigate many types of calls for service, such as crashes, medical calls, hazardous conditions, disabled vehicles, criminal investigations, and traffic complaints. We receive an estimated 100 plus traffic complaints each year. During their normal patrol function, officers are spending time in the neighborhoods around businesses and our schools. They are driving our main arteries and connectors. Among other things, they're looking for hazards, criminal activity, and traffic violations. They observe traffic, they use speed monitoring devices such as radar and laser, and they work together to identify violations and seek compliance. Officers often provide attention to areas that have a tendency to have increased violations, such as intersections, or where they have observed consistent violations. We use crash data and complaints to determine some of our efforts. Every month we look at where the most accidents occur and the reasons for those accidents. We use that data to focus on enforcement efforts. This is an example of a heat map indicating the locations of our accidents in March of this year. Just for a reference number, there were 26 accidents investigated in March of 2021. Last calendar year, there were 290. 2019 calendar year, there were 420. And in 2018 calendar year, there were 465 accidents that were investigated. We receive complaints by phone, in person, and by email. Emails arrive to individual members or to the administration through our town website contact function, or through the recently added email address, which is on the screen here, trafficconcern@pd.simsbury-ct.gov. And that will go to one of our administrators, and the administrator will take from there what direction we need to go in. Speeding is by far the number one or the most frequent complaint that we receive. Other common complaints are stop signs, operation of commercial trucks or large trucks in residential areas, and excessive noise. When we receive complaints, they are emailed to all personnel unless it was received by dispatch and it's an issue that's in progress at the time of the call. If that is the case, the dispatcher will notify the personnel who are working, and officers will respond to or be dispatched to that area. We have a list, or we keep a list of recent complaints that are readily available for the officers, and they are often directed by their supervisor, generally at roll calls, on what locations to monitor or pay specific attention to. Officers are encouraged to look for other factors besides just willful non-compliance of motorists, other things that may lead to traffic complaints, such as restricted line of sights, enhanced roadway markings, signage, etc. Some members of the department have advanced training on the usage of roadway markings, signs, traffic calming, and other traffic topics. This was one of the responsibilities of the traffic enforcement officer when we filled that assignment for about 9 years, from 2008 to 2017. There are other members who have some advanced training, and they will conduct assessments of certain areas for potential improvements or enhancements. Most often, this is the community services officer. For a full assessment, he will set up a traffic survey equipment that gathers data such as traffic volume, traffic speed, peak travel times, the types of vehicles that go through an area, and a bunch of data that we can use. It's usually over a period of 7 to 14 days. That data is used to look at the depth of an issue, the accuracy of the perception, and to help establish an action plan for us. So after an assessment, then the recommended action may be only additional enforcement in the area, depending on what the issue is. But it may also include use of our variable message signs to encourage compliance. If an additional sign is appropriate or deemed needed, that request will be then made to the Public Works or to the State Department of Transportation. When the action plan could possibly include multiple signs, additional roadway markings, or traffic calming initiatives, then there are discussions and coordinations through town departments such as engineering, planning, Public Works, and the town manager. And this is just one recent example of the great work that was done on Notch Road by West Mountain in the last year and a half. I'm often asked to reduce speed limits and to designate certain roads as no-through trucks. Just as a point of interest, speed limits and no-through truck designations are established only by the State Office of Traffic Administration, or OSTA. We do not have any control over that, but there's sometimes preliminary work that the police department can do, gathering of data to provide to them and request an assessment from the state. Each year we participate in special events that are sponsored by the state of Connecticut, such as Click It or Ticket or distracted driving campaigns. And we will also on occasion saturate an area with officers to try to change driving behavior. So recently, besides during the first 9 months of the pandemic, the number of traffic complaints seems to have increased. The number of assessments that are being done has increased significantly over the last 5 years. So it's a much more holistic approach to safer roadways, but it takes a considerable amount of time and resources. In the past, our normal response would be if someone's complaining about speeding or traffic or stop sign violations, traffic control violations, the initial response would be, well, let's put a cruiser out there and try to gain some compliance. So we've really taken a much larger look at it. And are there other things, are we having difficulty, or the driver's having difficulty seeing the stop signs? Is there enough distance between the stop line and the intersection? Are there line of sight issues? A bunch of things that we're taking a look at. Is there a way that we can make the road look a little bit more narrow and force the speed down? We've been training more members to be able to perform aspects or full assessments of these more complicated traffic complaints. And we've been working on our staffing levels to try to get those levels back up to where they should be, so we can then assign somebody to the traffic enforcement officer position. That would allow us to gain or have a dedicated person to be able to do assessments with the minimal interruptions from other obligations that the patrol function has, such as criminal investigations, alarms, and other calls for service. We're almost there. We're almost at that point. We have 3 vacancies right now. So as soon as we get our numbers back up there, hopefully we'll be able to assign somebody to that. It also provides a single contact for somebody to personally address traffic complaints with. And then things are distributed throughout the department sort of consistently, and there's a contact for a person who's making a complaint, and we can provide follow-up to them. Our ultimate goal is to reduce the number of accidents and influence the public to drive safely with courtesy and awareness of all roadway users. And that's all I have for presentation. If there are any questions, I'd love to answer them.
I commend you on the final picture. It's just a beautiful shot. Thank you. I appreciate you providing this overview. I wanted to see if there were questions from any members on the board.
I have a quick question, Chief. The email that you guys have, you said is it in use or is it just new? Like, are people writing to you?
So yes, we are receiving emails. It's been probably close to 2 weeks now since we have that up, and we put that on our town website and also on our Facebook page. I think a lot of people often still go to our town website and just do the regular contact form. And then when it goes through that process, it gets to us. We're still accepting them that way. But if there's a direct email, people can include pictures of what's going on in their area. We often have that, because what happens with that initial communication, it usually ends up going to me through the town website. And then I reach out to the person, or I ask somebody to reach out to the person. And then there's more communication back and forth. But it's been working well.
And then you determine if it's a serious, worth investigating kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So if somebody calls and says, just, on occasion, we have, somebody blow through a stop sign, or sometimes they identify a particular vehicle that does, or a particular time frame, then we'll have the officers go out there and try to do some enforcement or compliance. And then, take a look at, is there anything that's obvious to them? If it's a larger problem and we have multiple accidents. So oftentimes when somebody says, they may call and they say, this is a dangerous intersection or a dangerous strip of road, we will take a look at our accident records and see, what have we had there for accidents, or what have we had there for complaints in the past, and see really what's really happening. And then at that point, if we feel that there's something else we can do besides intermittently having a cruiser there, should we be looking at the speed limit? Should we be looking at the signs, the markings, all sorts of stuff like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
With the uptick in people reaching out to your department, do you know if your co-parts in other towns are finding similar thing with their residents?
It's interesting. I have not asked them, but I do a lot of driving around, and you just can't get it out of your mind. You're always looking to see what's going on around you as a police officer. And I would say that the driving behavior, the way it is in 2021, is significantly different than it was in 2019 and 2018. Our accidents, thankfully our accidents were down last year, but we had significantly less people on the road. People were not driving around nearly as much. I'm sure everybody in this crowd saw, what the traffic patterns looked like in May of 2020 and August of 2020. Very different than what they look like now, very different what they look like before March of 2020. So I will reach out, because that is an interesting point, but I see that there's a lot of anger out there in driving. There's a lot of reckless driving, and I think that is not unique to our region.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Eric, I'll add something. Chief, I appreciate you sharing this, your concerns and the enforcement techniques. Makes a lot of sense. And I absolutely agree with you about the downturn in the driving during 2020. And I will also share your point that there is a lot of frustration with people, whether it's driving or in general. I think it's COVID frustration, to be honest with you. But yeah. Thank you, Chief.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And it's certainly a concern to us, because the not the incident numbers or the incidences of road rage, but we have seen what has happened, unfortunately in places where people just get so frustrated, and it just could take that one poor driver or poor action of a driver to really get somebody a little frustrated, and then potentially cause an accident or some injury or something else.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
We have I think a segue into our next agenda item, which is a proclamation we prepared for National Law Enforcement Week. So this is the beginning of National Law Enforcement Memorial Week, which is a time to recognize law enforcement officers who've lost their lives in the line of duty. It's a time to reflect on the job that police do every day, the risks that they take to protect the communities that they serve, and as a board, express our gratitude. So we've got the proclamation sharing our screen, and I've asked Sean to go ahead and read it.
Thanks, Eric. And thank you, Chief, for what you do and what the team does. Certainly, I know everybody on this board appreciates it. Proclamation, National Law Enforcement Officer Memorial Week. Whereas President John F. Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day in 1962, and Congress in 1962 established National Police Week to recognize the law enforcement officers who have lost their lives while serving. And whereas the town of Simsbury recognizes the difficulty of the job of our police department and the potential dangers that go along with it. And whereas it is important to remember that all those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives across the country. And whereas the year 2021 marks the 59th annual National Law Enforcement Officer Memorial Week, be it now resolved that the Simsbury Board of Selectmen do hereby designate the week of May 9th through May 15th, 2021 as National Law Enforcement Officer Memorial Week. In witness thereof, we have placed our signatures and the Great Seal of the town of Simsbury dated May 10th, 2021.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Was there anything that you or any other member of our board wanted to add?
No, like I said, I just chiefly appreciate everything you and the officers do. And it's, as you articulated with the driving, it's certainly challenging times. But we're all home a lot more, or have been home a lot more, and there's a lot good to it. And it's been nice to see the officers driving around. I always take notice, and I can say, from my casual observation, our officers are out interacting in the community, on our different streets, on our neighborhoods, around bus time, around bus drop-off time, in the middle of the day. I've seen plenty of traffic enforcement. Haven't seen any of my colleagues pulled over, which has been nice. Can't say the same about prior boards of selectmen, but again, your presence is felt, I think, in a good way. And I see it in the little things. People in our town wave to our police officers and their cruisers, which I think says a lot about the community policing, Chief, that you and the team instill. So I appreciate everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I comment?
Please.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate it, and all the members really appreciate the proclamation and the recognition. There are a lot of us who know officers who have died in the line of duty, and so it means a tremendous amount to us. And just the recognition that they sacrificed their lives, their family members and their friends sacrificed their lives, and just the dangers in the overall job that we do have. So we certainly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I want to see if there is a motion effective May 10th, 2021 to endorse a proclamation in honor of National Law Enforcement Officer Memorial Week.
Make that motion.
A second.
I think Jackie got it there first.
It's
All
fine.
right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you for being with us tonight, Chief.
Chief.
We move on to another proclamation. We're also recognizing National Public Works Week, which is next week. And I think about all the ways that public works serves our residents, from clearing the roads from snow, cleaning fallen trees after a storm, keeping our roads in good repair, also cleaning our town buildings. And I'll point out that our cleaning protocols have never been higher than during this pandemic. A lot of focus and work that our custodial staff has done. And their work is often invisible. And I think that's a testament to how well they do their jobs. Our public works department serves the community of Simsbury at a very high level. And this is an opportunity to express our gratitude. So let me go back to the screen. And I believe, Mike, you're reading this proclamation.
Yes, I will. I appreciate that. It's my honor to read this proclamation. National Public Works Week. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Simsbury. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are administrators, laborers, truck drivers, custodian, wastewater treatment operators, engineers, supervisors, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for maintaining, rebuilding, improving, and protecting our community's transportation, environment, water treatment and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children of Simsbury to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest in and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And, wow, this is long. Whereas in the year 2021 marks the 61st annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association / Canadian Public Works Association, be it now resolved that the Simsbury Board of Selectmen do hereby designate the week of May 16th to the 22nd, 2021 as National Public Works Week. We urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association / Canadian Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designated to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protect our national health, safety, and quality of life. In witness thereof, we have placed our signatures and the Great Seal of the town of Simsbury, dated the 10th day of May 2021. A lot of words, but I will tell you that Tom's folks do a great job for the town of Simsbury, and I cannot imagine where we would be without all their hard work with COVID, even before you get to the snowstorms and ice storms and windstorms and everything else. They do a really good job.
Thanks, Mike. Tom, I'm not seeing you on my screen, but I know you're here. Where are you?
I'm here, Eric, and
There you are. Now you appear.
Mike, I appreciate you reading through that, and I know this is close to your home as well. And I think, Eric, you said it really well that my crew, when they do their job well, effectively they're invisible. They make sure everything runs smoothly, and for so many years they've been happy to be in the background, and wherever we can just kind of shine a light on the hard work that they do, at times dangerous work that they do, in the long hours, it really does mean a lot to all of them. And Sean mentioned waving to the police officers. I assure you, we ask our crew to wave to everybody on the side of the road, and I think that's a great way of showing appreciation. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll also highlight the public safety component that Public Works does, making sure that the roads are clear for first responder vehicles during our many wind and snow events. Great. So let me see if there is a motion effective May 10th, 2021 to endorse the proclamation in honor of National Public Works Week.
I'll move that.
Second.
Wait, I heard, was that Chris? I think I heard a male voice in there.
Jackie was gone, but Jackie can have it.
I'll take it.
All right, Jackie, it's all yours. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Tom. And thank you to your entire team.
Thanks, Tom.
Next, we have a proclamation for Bike Month, and it'll be followed by a brief presentation. Simsbury has been recognized, as I know we all know, as a silver bicycle-friendly community. And this month, the month of May, is an opportunity to highlight bikes, bike safety, and of course, the wonderful trails and roads that we have in Simsbury. And I wanted to make sure that I'm recognizing all of the members of our cycling community who are on with us. Patty Jacobus-Smith, Diana Moody, Debbie Thibodeau. Am I missing anybody? Okay. Jackie, let me ask you to read this presentation.
Sure, Eric. May 2021 is Bike Month in Simsbury, Connecticut. Whereas millions of Americans engage in bicycling as an environmentally sound form of transportation, an excellent form of fitness, and a quality family recreation activity. And whereas Simsbury, Connecticut, our state's first bicycle-friendly community, annually hosts Bike to Work Day, Bike to School events, community bike challenges, safe cycling events that attract residents and bicycle tourists to Simsbury. Whereas these events demonstrate that cycling is sustainable, economic development policy impacting our home prices, our tourism industry, and our local economy by making our town attractive to businesses and citizens who enjoy safe outdoor recreation that fosters healthy lifestyles. And hold please. Whereas recognizing that investing in bicycle-friendly communities is good public health policy by encouraging low-impact exercise, which improves overall well-being and quality of life, builds community spirit, and can reduce pollution and congestion. And whereas the League of American Bicyclists and Connecticut cyclists view cycling as safe policy, and Bike Month promotes public awareness of bicycle operation to improve, reduce crashes, injuries, and fatalities. And whereas cycling is good social policy in that all citizens of Simsbury benefit from the availability of a complete transportation system that includes facilities dedicated to the safe and convenient movement of bicycle traffic. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town of Simsbury Board of Selectmen hereby proclaim the month of May 2021 as Bike Month in beautiful and silver level bicycle-friendly Simsbury, Connecticut.
Okay. What I'd like to do, if the board is supportive, is make this in the same sort of theme as the other proclamations we did, where we put all of our names on here. So I want to see if there is a motion effective May 10th, 2021 to endorse the Bike Month proclamation.
So moved.
Second.
Chris, you got in there. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. So we have a presentation tonight. There's an opportunity to see what's coming up in the rest of the month of May. And Patty, let me turn it over to you. Do we have Patty? Do we have Debbie or Diana?
Yeah, Pat, Eric, this is Diana. Deb and one of them should have the
I'm here.
I don't have. Okay, great. Go ahead, Patty.
We got you
Yeah,
now.
I'm here. Okay.
Who's Melissa? Are you sharing the
This is-
presentation?
Yes, I can do that. I can pull the presentation up for you guys.
Okay, thanks, Melissa.
Thank you. Hi to everyone. I'll get going because I know your time is short tonight. I am speaking on behalf of the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. As you know, we were Connecticut's first bicycle-friendly community back in 2010, and now the first silver-level bicycle-friendly community. And that actually has inspired a number of other Connecticut towns to examine their infrastructure to see how walk and bike-friendly it is. Every May, Simsbury joins communities across the U.S. to celebrate Bicycle Month. So in Simsbury particularly, we have a lot to celebrate. As many of you know, in Simsbury, we have two of the most vibrant bike trails in New England. We have the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail that runs from Yale, New Haven, all the way up to Westfield. And we also have the Farmington River Trail that is a 17-mile loop through the Farmington Valley. If you haven't been on them, I strongly encourage you to give it a try. It's unforgettable. One of the other things that sometimes we fail to realize is that these assets, these trails, especially during the last year, during the pandemic, it really became a safe retreat for people who were in exhausting business Zoom calls all day, kids that were sitting in front of mind-numbing screens all day, and just the social isolation that we all felt a little bit during the last year. Being able to get out on the trail in a relatively safe environment really was a physical and mental health lift for a lot of people. And it's even getting better. One of the things that I really would like to remind people about, in case you're not familiar with it, is one of the things that Simsbury is looking forward to is our trail at 3:15 and 10 will eventually run to Curtis Park, up to Terriffill, through Bloomfield, into Hartford. And the real game changer here is the fact that it will become designated as East Coast Greenway. Now, if you're not familiar with the East Coast Greenway, it runs from Calais, Maine, down to Vero Beach, Florida. And what that link will do for us is open up tourism, bicycle tourism, in an enormous fashion for us. The real estate in Terriffill, the traffic on the trail coming from other parts of New England is going to be extraordinary. So we're all here to talk about how we can't wait for that to happen. Anything we can do to push that along, we're excited about. Next slide, please. We've read the proclamation, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. The real issue here is the physical activity and the mental health aspects of the trail, what it does to real estate and our economic development. I think people on this board are pretty familiar with it. So we'll move on to the next slide. Try to keep in my 5 minutes, Eric. Again, thanks to Deb Thibodeau, one of my partners in crime on the Bike Ped Committee. She put the bike calendar together and was instrumental in pulling a lot of these events together. 3 of our elementary schools, Latimer Lane, Squadron, and Tooten Hills, have all scheduled bike to school events. And this is no small undertaking for parents, administrators, advocates. I think last Friday we had 130 kids on bikes with their parents. It was really an eye-opener to see how many kids enjoyed getting to school in a safe way on 2 wheels. And more interesting was the reduction in the number of cars, you know, the caravan of cars that drops kids off in the morning. It was almost non-existent. Next slide. I'll talk more about these a little bit later. There are a number of people that were very involved in, number 1, Bike Month. Number 2, earning that designation as a bicycle-friendly community. In the Simsbury Public Library, I can't not mention them because they are usually one of the first groups to come to us, even before we start our planning for Bike Month. They always come to us with a litany of ideas for events. They host our Zoom meetings. They're always the first to offer new ideas. And they've been hosting bike maintenance events and also a lot of the ride to library and children's events. Next slide, please. The Simsbury schools, I've mentioned that 3 of the schools every year sign up for Bike to School. Just look at those bikes. We have the elementary schools that are getting bike safety training as part of their PE program. We have the bike to school days. We also have a summer program that allows the high school students to get PE credits for a summer bike safety program. A lot of these kids are going to be going away to colleges. They're going to be in urban environments, maybe on a bike. So this kind of training is really a plus for them and their families. Next slide, please. The Simsbury Police Department. I heard Nick Bolter earlier talking about some of the things happening in Simsbury. He did mention some of the bike activity, and I'll tell you, we couldn't do it without them. If you've been down on Iron Horse Boulevard, you've seen their LED signage during Bike Month. We love their distracted driving campaigns. Everybody benefits from those. They're always there at the Bike to School events. One of the topics that he mentioned and Tom Roy mentioned was traffic calming efforts. This is very big in the bicycle community. Obviously, slowing traffic, everybody wins, but particularly cyclists because they're the most vulnerable of all of the folks that are on the road. And I know Public Works and the police department have been collaborating on a new traffic calming project on the Farmington River Trail. So we're pretty excited about that. Next slide. We mentioned Public Works, and Public Works is kind of where the rubber hits the road, literally. Their mission is safety and connectivity, and we have a lot to thank them for. Their wayfaring signage. I don't know how many of you know that we have a 17-mile share road bike route in town. This was thanks to our Public Works department. Their stellar street conditions for all the road cyclists, and I know the road cyclists kind of get a bad rap, but that's only 5% of the people that are on bikes in town, according to our local bike shop. But he does all the, he and his guys do all the trail paving and patching. But this year particularly, and I hope you've noticed that at all of the trail crossings, there's new ped heads, there's lights for pedestrians and bicycles to cross. And particularly the one at Stratton Brook, at the end of Stratton Brook, where it intersects with Town Forest Road. That's always been a very busy intersection. There's a lot of traffic, runners, bikers, walkers. There's a new ped head there as well to slow traffic and give pedestrians and bikers right away to get across to the park. Next slide, please. And then the Board of Selectmen. This is just a shout out to all the Board of Selectmen over the years for supporting all of our trail efforts, for supporting our bike to school events, supporting a bike ped advocates ride with the Selectmen. And I understand that Eric has picked May 25th at 5 p.m. to have another, we're going to revive our ride, and we'll be meeting in front of Town Hall. And again, the big thanks goes out to all the engineering work that's being done to get funding and to get approvals and design work done for those 3 segments that will go out to Terrafil. Number 1, linking the people from Terrafil to Town Center, which is huge, but also connecting through Bloomfield into Hartford and getting that designation from the East Coast Greenway to really put Simsbury on the map from a biking standpoint. The last slide is just sort of a call to action. If any of the things I mentioned you want more information on, you can go to our website, which is simsbury.bike. And that's also our Facebook and our Instagram page. We would love to have the Board of Selectmen, the employees that work for the town, residents from town join us at the Board of Selectmen ride on May 25th. Also, Deb Thibodeau has been sort of the master of our Simsbury Bike Challenge. Very easy to get online and just use your free Strava app to log in. And if you need any help, just give us a call. We'd love to have more and more people from town participate in that bike challenge. And if you're at all interested in finding out how other trailside communities take care of their trails, appreciate their trails, we're doing a Ride the State on June 6th. It's a 56-mile ride. Sounds awful long, but there's a lot of stops, a lot of discussion, and it's really a great way to see what other towns are doing as well. So that's our story. We'd love to have you join us in all 3 of those things.
Well,
Hi, Tom.
Thank you for this presentation. I thought that it was sort of a fitting way to tie together everything else we've been talking about. We started with, talking about police and then public works, and I'd also add engineering to that mix because it's really the bike community that that helps tie all of these departments together. And I appreciate all those departments for doing the work that has allowed us to be a bicycle friendly community. And of course, Diana, Patty, and Deb for your advocacy. I was going to mention, just reiterate again, May 25th is the Board of Selectmen bike ride. I think members of our board have many strengths and many talents, and I don't know if bike riding is one of our particular strengths. So there was a gentle ask that if it were on a flatter route, that would be highly appreciated, but we're looking forward to it.
Mhm. It will be a very flat route.
Thank you.
And very scenic. And just let us know if you need bikes. We'll be happy to round up some bikes for anyone who's who doesn't have one or needs.
Any chance you have any tandem bikes?
We used to when we had Simsbury free bike, but we've.
Okay. Because if you ever want to like symbolize bipartisan cooperation, that's something we could do with a tandem bike.
I do remember Mary Glassman and Tom Roy. I have a famous picture of the two of them on a tandem bike when we kicked off this whole bicycle-friendly initiative.
All right.
I know who was pedaling that day.
50 miles on a tandem bike with your boss. It is a level of employee you don't often get.
Oh, it was fun.
Wendy, we going to jump in?
Well, I was going to say, do you have any tricycles for us?
Actually, one of the companies that used to be in Simsbury, and unfortunately they've moved to Barkhamsted, is Ty Trikes, and they have a fabulous array of type bikes. The beauty of the trail is that it serves everybody in the community. It serves people, the ADA community, seniors, kids, families, tourists. There isn't a person that it can't touch in town. And I'll tell you, all those angry drivers that are driving their car, they need to get out on a bike and work it off.
That's good advice. Any other questions on the topic of bikes?
I have one I think it's for the town. The bike loan program that we used to have
right.
with the bikes. Is that coming back this summer?
Uh-oh, we lost you.
Oops.
We lost Patty. I don't know.
We had some, the group that was our nonprofit left the town. So it looks like my internet connection is not very stable.
Yeah.
He left the town. Now I can't talk about it because the person hasn't finalized all the details. We would love to bring it back. We have all of the hotels begging us for bikes because that was a great way to attract people. They don't want to sit in the bar and have dinner at night. They want to get out and see the town, and no better way to do it than on a bike. So we're looking to try to figure out a way to do it, but no guarantees right now.
Okay, thanks. That's great.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Good to see you all.
Thanks for allowing us to have the time with you.
Of course. All right, we're going to move on to the first Selectmen's report. I wanted to begin by thanking our residents for an incredible turnout at our May 4th budget referendum. More than 18% of registered voters cast a ballot, about 3,500 people, which is significantly higher than a typical budget referendum. All 6 questions on the ballot passed overwhelmingly, including a renovation and expansion of Latimer Lane Elementary School and the acquisition of the 288-acre Meadowood property. The full results can be found on the town website, and I'll provide a link to those results in the report that's emailed out tomorrow. Currently, the state is scheduling vaccines for people who are 16 and older, who live and work in Connecticut. Since some clinics are no longer requiring appointments, and those include locations in Bloomfield, Farmington, and West Hartford. And you can find a full list of such clinics on the state's COVID-19 vaccination website. I'm also pleased to share that starting on June 1, Town Hall, the library, and Eno Memorial Hall will resume their pre-COVID walk-in hours. In-person programs, events, and gatherings will be phased in gradually throughout the summer. The library will remain closed on Wednesdays to accommodate their the weekly vaccination clinic there. Our annual Memorial Day ceremony will take place on May 31st, but it will look a bit different this year because of COVID-19 restrictions. While there won't be a parade, there will be a ceremony held at Simsbury Meadows Performing Arts Center. Pre-registration is required through the Parks and Rec website. The gates will open at 11:30, and there'll be food and beverage for purchase. At noon, there'll be several musical performances, including one from the Simsbury High School Band. The ceremony will start at 1, and then at 2 o'clock, there will be more music by Codes and Keys, followed by Organized Chaos. I want to thank the Simsbury VFW and American Legion for their hard work in making these Memorial Day events possible. I'd like to thank Simsbury Spirit Council on another successful virtual program that was part of its Let's Talk series. Last week's program explored anti-Asian bias, and the Hartford Current featured an article that I link to in the report that's emailed out tomorrow. The Spirit Council's Let's Talk series continues in June. On June 3rd, they'll be hosting a virtual panel discussion to give voice to community members who identify as LGBTQ+. On June 17th, Spirit will celebrate Juneteenth. Registration will be on the library's website under virtual programs. Those links, though, aren't yet posted, but they will be shortly. At our April 26th Board of Selectmen meeting, the board voted to add a housing subcommittee to the work of Spirit Council that'll focus on issues of housing and housing equity. At our meeting on May 24th, we anticipate that there'll be a presentation of an affordable housing plan that was developed by Simsbury's Planning Commission. That plan will include steps that the town can take to increase the share of houses deemed affordable under the state statute 830G, which provides deed-restricted housing and specific definition of affordable. It's my hope and expectation that Spirit Council will use this plan as a starting place and also look at issues of housing equity more broadly to provide recommendations to the Board of Selectmen and our land use commissions. And I'll turn it over to Maria, who has the town manager's report.
Great, thanks, Eric. Good evening, everyone. So regarding our pandemic update, our case numbers are starting to trend downwards again, which is a really good sign. For the most recent week, we were at orange status for the municipal COVID alert system, which means we have 10 or more cases, but less than 15 cases per 100,000 residents. Our case rate was 10 cases per 100,000 residents for this most recent period, which again is down slightly from 10.6 on April 24th. And our COVID positivity rate for those being tested was 2.5%, which is a slight decrease from the week prior. We are currently at 35 positive cases over the most recent 2-week period ending May 1st, which is a slight decrease from 37 cases the prior 2-week period. But we did go from 20 cases last week to 15 cases in the most recent week. So again, very small trends downward, but we are seeing the trend downward again. The Farmington Valley Health District is reporting that they're seeing the largest number of cases now in the age group of children, essentially up to the age of 19, and that they made up 27% as a group of all new cases, compared to January when they were approximately 19% of cases. And then for folks over the age of 60, they are now only 12% of new cases compared to 25% of new cases in January. And they're really seeing these shifts largely due to the age distribution of those people who are being vaccinated. Preliminary data from the state ending May 5th is reporting that we have just under 16,000 residents that have received at least their first dose of the vaccine, or 62.4% of our residents, while just under 50%, 48.8% of our residents are now fully vaccinated. So very good progress on that front. The health district is reporting that they are anticipating approval of the Pfizer vaccine for children 12 and older beginning May 12th. They are going to be offering 2 first dose and corresponding second dose clinics for the population 12 and older. And they will be working to promote that. And the first clinic would be held on May 18th. They are also seeking medical volunteers who may be willing to help vaccinate individuals. And the contact person is Anna Larson at the Health District, and her contact information is in the report. In regards to our workforce, for the month of April, we had 6 staff members quarantined, and we had 2 positive cases. As of today, for May, we have had no new quarantine cases or no new positive cases. So again, that's a really, really good sign. Again, as we're continuing to see cases, around the community trend downwards. Thank you to Eric for reminding folks that we will be reopening for our walk-in visitors at Eno and Town Hall and the library on June 1st. And that again is we are planning to resume our pre-COVID hours. We also are planning for a shift back to in-person meetings or hybrid meetings, which would be a combination of in-person and remote. At this time, we're tentatively planning for May 21st. That may be extended. We're still awaiting some pending state legislation, so there is a bit of uncertainty around it still. But staff is, doing planning in terms of meeting locations based on size of group, trying to look at some outdoor locations for groups who may be wanting to do that, as well as starting to accommodate some potential hybrid meeting technology. We've looked at some things such as Owl Labs and Zoom rooms. And yeah, so we're just kind of working through all those logistics now, but again, heading back more to a little bit towards our normal. And a few news and notes, just reminders that are in the report about the Farmington River Trail temporary closure near Stratton Brook Park. And for social services, our renters rebate program, as well as the blood pressure and blood sugar screenings that will be resuming shortly. So more information is in the report on that. And that's that for this evening.
Okay, thank you, Maria. We'll jump into Selectmen action. Item A is a supplemental appropriation for the North End Sidewalk Project. This is a project that is progressing, and the request is to approve $147,000 appropriation because of additional costs that were added to the project based on changes that the state has requested. Then this project is funded by a state grant, and the town is not responsible for funding these additional costs. I thought it's a little bit complicated how this works. It might be helpful if Maria, if you shared a little context.
Sure, and actually, I'll let Tom take this one.
Oh, sure, all yours, Tom.
Actually, long and short of it, it's all we're in a good place on this project. The design is progressing. We're responsible for the design, and as you mentioned, Eric, the LOTSIP program by the state of Connecticut and administered by our regional council of governments is administering the project. As we went through our first round of state reviews, they found a few places where they wanted to see an enhancement to their traffic signals, to the DOT drainage facilities along Route 10, and a few other relatively minor changes. Some of the items went up, some went down. And it's just a case of, as we move through the design and we refine exactly what we're going to do, we found places where we needed to, the state wanted us to expend a little bit more money. So it's one of these, it's better to find this out now early in the process than once we get into construction. We're hoping to actually meet with the North End businesses probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks to let them see the conceptual drawings, understand what the project's going to be, and hopefully we'll be bidding this project and into construction either very late this construction season or more probably early next construction season.
Great. You answered all of my questions in that update. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay. Is there a motion effective?
I got a question. Yeah. We're putting in a sidewalk, and $150,000 of additional cost is coming in from the state for stuff that doesn't have to do with the sidewalk. Tom?
That would be accurate. What their concept on projects is, their theory is, if you're going by a signalized crossing, they want to make sure that's the time they feel that as if there's construction, they want to enhance that signalized crossing. As we're doing construction near some of their drainage facilities, they want to make sure those drainage facilities are updated while we're there.
All right. I mean, this is just, normally those would come out of the DOT's pot of money when they made the improvements to the roadway, right?
That's correct. And this is complicated in the way that, as Eric started to explain, the grant is effectively coming from the state and the federal government. So it's no cost to the town, but I feel your frustration that, we're awarded a project. We've always been very frugal and fiscally conservative. And here we are working with the state and they expand the scope.
Right. And those lots of dollars you have budgeted every year for local projects, right?
No, you're
I'm thinking of LOSIP, sorry.
LOSIP. Yeah.
Thank you. You're right.
With all that, it's confusing.
No, you're right. I was thinking of LOSIP, but back to it, is the state's adding 150,000. I mean, I get it, but it's just, it's frustrating, as this is the definition of scope creep, right? I mean,
and where I think we are fortunate is that the changes that they asked for at these signalized intersections are not going to result in higher engineering costs to us. If they had been older signals and they had asked for completely redesigned signals, that would have been an increase in our cost for our design engineers. So
which signals are we talking about, Tom?
This project is basically going from Antonio's at Hoskins all the way up north to the DOT garage. And then we're also tailing off into the Dorset crossing, connect up to all of those apartments. So all of those new signals up in that area, the existing traffic signals, for example, like at the Dorset and Hot Meadow Street intersection, that's going to be updated with pedestrian crossings.
Okay, so not the lights themselves, not the string across the street, but the actual traffic or pedestrian crossings?
Yes, it's going to be so you have a modern press the button, walk signal, countdown signal, everything you need to be fully compliant.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Just wanted to make sure I understood.
I appreciate it. Were there any other questions on this? Okay. Is there a motion effective May 10th, 2021 to approve the supplemental appropriation request for the North End Sidewalk project as presented and recommend its approval to the Board of Finance?
I'll move that, Eric.
I'll second.
I heard Jackie. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B is tax refunds. Is there a motion effective May 10th, 2021 to approve the presented tax refunds in the amount of $229.47 and authorize Town Manager Maria Cabriola to execute the tax refunds?
So moved.
Second.
I heard Mike. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Item C. So on May 4th, our residents approved a major capital project, renovation and expansion of Latimer Lane Elementary School. And a portion of this project, more than $12 million, can be covered by state grants. So in order for that process to begin, it starts with us approving certain resolutions, which Wendy will read in a moment. I wanted to see, I know we've got Neil Sullivan from the Board of Ed on with us. Is there anything you wanted to add, Neil?
Just that these motions are part of what we need to be able to, the first motion is to have you authorize us to apply by the June 30th deadline to get a project moving. And what this particular Office of School Construction Grants and Review is looking for is that the boards are sort of on the same page. So it's important to, we have to submit this. Actually, what we have to submit is the minutes of your the approval of this meeting when we go to apply for a grant. So hopefully these motions can pass, and then we submit the minutes and we're off and running to get the reimbursements.
Great. Thank you, Neil. Any questions from anyone on the board?
Just a beautifully efficient process, huh, Neil?
Well, us, voting to, move this project to the Board of Finance and moved it to referendum, obviously isn't support enough. So we have more support tonight. Wendy, do you want to read the resolution?
Yep. I just want to say that it's kind of exciting to see this actually moving forward after sitting on the Facilities and Enrollment Task Force and, all the different options. And this is the route that we are now going. So no one's going to share, but I have it up on my side screen if you want me to just look over here. And I have an easier one than everybody else had. If the Board of Selectmen supports the below resolutions, the following motions are in order. A, resolve that the Board of Selectmen authorizes the Town of Simsbury Board of Education to apply to the Office of School Construction Grants and Review and to accept or reject a grant for the proposed renovation and expansion of Latimer Lane School. B, resolve that the Board of Selectmen hereby establishes the Permanent Public Building Committee as the building committee to the proposed renovation and expansion of Latimer Lane School. C, resolve that the Board of Selectmen authorizes the preparation of schematic drawings and outline specifications for the proposed renovation and expansion of Latimer Lane School.
Okay. So Wendy, if it's okay with you, you made that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And any further conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Neil, thanks
All right.
for your work and for being with us tonight.
Thank you for all your support of this project. It's going to mean a lot for our school system, and we really appreciate the support.
Now, one thing
Thanks,
before you
Neil.
go, Neil, you gave us a wonderful tour of Latimer before this, so I hope that we will get a tour after it's all done.
Yes.
Absolutely promised.
All right, excellent.
Awesome.
All right, have a good one. Item D is a conflict waiver request for our bond counsel. We recently retained the services of the law firm Pullman and Comley as bond counsel. And during this process, potential conflicts of interest were noted in regards to matters that other attorneys at that firm are handling. And the work of bond counsel is specialized and separate. So we're asked to provide this conflict waiver. Maria, anything you wanted to add to this?
No, I think you covered it well. Just maybe referencing the fact that we did something similar some number of months ago at our bond counsel's previous firm. There was sort of a similar type of an issue that popped up. But again, this particular work is very specialized, and Bob and I reviewed it and don't anticipate any conflict between the work that Judith and Glenn would be doing versus other attorneys at their firm.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Were there questions on this? Is there a motion effective May 10th, 2021 to approve the attached conflict of interest waiver request from Pullman and Comley, LLP, to represent the town of Simsbury as bond counsel?
I'll move that, Eric.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Item E is a proposed public gathering permit for the Simsbury Culture, Parks and Rec, Farmington River, 4th of July canoe, kayak, and sup race. And I see Tom Hazel is with us. Tom, what can you share with us about this event?
In review of the application, it seems to be affiliated with their membership. So the numbers should be relatively under control from a COVID standpoint. Public access through Curtis Park is where they're looking to launch the race from, but public access to the waterway will not be impeded during their program. It's a fairly short program. While it says 9 to 2, the race itself will be running roughly from about 11 to 1, give some setup, some breakdown times. And it seems like a fairly nice loop that they'll be running through. All committee members have approved the project as proposed, or the gathering is proposed. And it seems very low key, and hopefully people will have some fun out on the river.
Great. Thanks, Tom. There was also included with the submission, one thing that this board could do is limit or specify the certain river height not to exceed in our approval of this event. I just wanted to see if that's something that people would be supportive of doing.
Yes.
Yeah, I absolutely would. I'm the one that brought that up in the past. Yeah, that's an absolute safety issue there.
So that would be a maximum or minimum height?
Maximum.
Okay, I'll make note of that.
And what was I going
That
to
would be canceled if it exceeded 7.
Correct. Were there any other questions for Tom? Is there a motion effective May 10th, 2021 to approve the public gathering application on behalf of Simsbury Culture, Parks and Recreation and authorize the issuance of the public gathering permit for the Farmington River 4th of July canoe, kayak, and sup race? And in addition, specify that should the Farmington River height exceed 7 feet on the day of the event will be canceled.
Move that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thanks, Tom.
All right, thank you on behalf of Parks and Rec.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Item F, this is an annual item that we tackle. The Neighborhood Assistance Act program provides a tax credit to businesses that make cash investments in qualifying community programs. And this year, the town has received 2 proposals, one from the Simsbury Grange and the other from Simsbury Department of Community and Social Services for our food programs. And a requirement of this program is that we hold a public hearing, which we can schedule tonight for our meeting on June 14th. I wanted to see if there were any questions on this item or if there's anything staff wanted to add. Okay.
Just quickly, Jackie and I had a really good conversation today about looking into a possible application for funds for an open space acquisition fund. So Melissa's going to do a bit of research for us on that and reach out to Department of Revenue. Just really wanted to thank her for the suggestion. I told her it was very timely given the chat that the Open Space Committee just had last week. So thank you for the good suggestion. We'll look into that. And if it's something we can do, we'll just add that as an additional application probably for your next packet, but it won't affect scheduling the public hearing in any way.
Okay.
Thanks, Melissa, for looking into it.
Yeah. Wow. Very timely. Okay. Any other questions? Is there a motion effective May 10th, 2021 to set a public hearing to receive public comment on the proposals submitted by the Simsbury Grange and the Simsbury Department of Community and Social Services pursuant to the 2021 Connecticut Neighborhood Assistance Act for 6 p.m. on Monday, June 14th, 2021?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Mike seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. On the topic of public hearings, we scheduled a public hearing for proposed revisions to our Historic District Commission ordinance for May 24th. And we're being asked to cancel that and move it also to our June 14th meeting. And perhaps, Maria, you could just shed a little bit light on why we need to do that.
Sure. So that particular public hearing, it's not for an urgent matter. And we're not exactly quite sure what we're looking at come May 24th in terms of in-person, hybrid, et cetera. So since it's not an urgent matter, just to give us a little bit of breathing room, we thought it would make sense to push out that public hearing date to the same evening as the other public hearing in June.
Makes sense. Were there any questions? Is there a motion effective May 10th, 2021 to cancel the public hearing scheduled for May 24th, 2021 at 6 p.m. to receive public comment concerning proposed revisions to Chapter 25 of the Town Code concerning the Historic District Commission, and reschedule this public hearing for 6:05 p.m. on Monday, June 14th, 2021?
I'll move that, Eric.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. Item H is proposed revisions to the Simsbury Spirit Council rules and procedures. At our last meeting, we approved a motion to form a subcommittee of the Spirit Council to focus on issues around housing. And staff was shared with us some possibilities for amending the rules and procedure, both for this and also for possible other items they might want to tackle in the future. And I asked if it'd be possible to share these changes so we can see what's in front of us. It's sort of two things. One is, our motion at the last meeting was to form a subcommittee. So this would be a fourth subcommittee of the Spirit Council. But one of the proposed changes to their rules and procedures would be the ability to form ad hoc committees. So it's kind of like the way the Board of Selectmen forms work groups when we're tackling something that's fairly specific and time bound. So if we're supportive, that's something that we could add. Is someone able to share the screen?
Clear, Eric. So we officially added the subcommittee. So this language is just adding the subcommittee that we already approved.
It would be adding the subcommittee, but also approving the change to specifying the idea of ad hoc committees, which this would not be one of them.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
Did anyone else have any questions or clarification?
Do we have ad hoc committees on, do we have that kind of on other committees that we have the ability to create, just out of curiosity?
For other groups other than Spirit?
Yeah.
I mean, we do them from time to time with ours in the Board of Finance, I think, but I don't think we've done them anywhere else. I think when a new issue comes along that's within the scope of it, I don't think anybody needs to go form an official committee. They just tackle it because it's the scope, whether it be tourism or economic development,
Zoning.
zone. Yeah, I mean, if it's under the umbrella of the purpose of what they're constituted, they don't have to get permission to focus on it.
Okay, I was just curious why it would be different for this group if they do have that kind of, we don't have that for other committees. I'm not sure if they need it or not, or do they have to come to us and ask for the work group?
I also think with some of our sort of legacy committees, I don't know if we have anything that is this, detailed on what it is they do and how they're structured.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's fair.
Well,
I was curious.
I actually view this, Eric, as us telling them to create this other group. It's not the Spirit Council deciding what they're going to do. It's really coming through the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, and I think that the more we can be tied to what they're working on, the more we can provide direction and ultimately support the work.
I agree.
Absolutely.
My only comment there, guys, is that I would like there to be a dialogue between the Spirit Committee and the Board of Selectmen. So whomever, whether that's the first selectman and the leader of the Spirit Committee, I would hope that they come, not necessarily, as I don't want to create what we're talking about. I don't want for them that they need to ask our permission, but as we've said, these are going to be things that are within their charge, their sphere of influence and education and purpose. I would hope that they maybe have a dialogue with you, Eric, whomever the first selectman is, say, hey, we're thinking about this issue kind of came up, but we're going to form a committee and we're going to start exploring it. I'm not asking for them to come in to I don't want that to be blurred and then start to transition to permission, because that's what we're saying is an ad hoc. But I also am fearful that there needs to be a little bit of, I don't want this to start spiraling out and out and out and because once committees are formed and ad hoc committees are formed, then what the results that come back to a certain extent have an expectation of those being pressed forward with some level of intent. And I don't want this to start moving past the boundaries of who has influence and responsibility and accountability for certain things in town. Okay, that's just my thought.
Well, Chris, to your point about us having a dialogue, Sean and I are both co-liaisons to Spirit.
Correct. I know.
We attend, at least one of us attends pretty much all of their meetings. And that's also the intent of the quarterly update that they've been doing, so that they're, we're staying engaged in what they're doing.
Yeah. And further, I mean, item B is the Board of Selectmen may, so we're the ones that create the ad hocs. So there is still that required collaboration, Chris, to your point. So
I know you guys, you could attend their meetings and their updates, but I'm certain that a lot of conversation happens outside of the formal meetings and people start to bring together ideas of special concerns and interests that start to form and then move in certain directions. That's all.
No, it's a fair point. Yeah.
I don't want to layer on, this is an incredible, if you have identified a pretty incredibly important organization, and the folks are some of our most dedicated in spirit, but I also don't want to let this to start to take the form of legislation as well. So that's my concern outside of what we are. So I appreciate that.
Were there any other comments or questions?
I just had one comment. My preference here would have been to table this and discuss it at the May 20 March. I don't know why I have March on the brain. The May 24th meeting, when we're going to hear from the Planning Commission, I believe, and to see what kind of proposals they have for what a task force would do versus the housing subcommittee, which I raised last time. And also, I'm curious as to when we're going to get the proposal on what this committee is going to do.
So we already approved this. We did. The subcommittee's already happened. They've already made it.
I know that.
This is just cleaning up the language. So tabling this
Well, it
evening
would,
does nothing.
no, I'm just saying what the subcommittee would be doing. Here, we're saying exactly what they're doing. I don't know if that's what we discussed last week, and we were still waiting for a proposal. So that's the only reason I suggest it.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I respectfully disagree. We've already approved this, and I don't even think we need to approve this language tonight. I think this was the intent of the motion last time. But I mean, staff has recommended that we codify the wording. So
Yeah, that's really
this is already done.
Okay.
That's what the intent of this is. And Wendy, to your previous question, Sean and I as co-liaisons are going to be staying very close to Spirit and this particular subcommittee, given the amount of eyes and interest on it from a wide range of constituents.
Okay.
So I wanted to share that. Okay. Let me see if I can find the motion. Is there a motion effective May 10th, 2021 to adopt the proposed revisions to the Simsbury Spirit Council rules and procedures as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
I'm going to abstain. I respect the vote of the board last week, but because of the outstanding task force questions and a proposal, that's my view.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. So five ayes and one abstention. Appointments and resignations. Is there a motion effective May 10th, 2021 to appoint Scott A. Wilson as a regular member of the Historic District Commission with a term expiring January 1, 2024, Ram Kaza as a regular member of the Zoning Board of Appeals with a term expiring December 6th, 2021, and Amy McLean Sauls as a regular member of the Clean Energy Task Force with a term expiring December 6th, 2021.
So moved.
I'll second it. Any further conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Review of the minutes from the special meeting on April 24th. This was, I believe, the one at the ice rink, and then the regular meeting on April 26th. Was there any feedback on the minutes? Okay, then they stand.
All good.
Any selectmen liaison and subcommittee reports tonight?
I did want to say the Board of Ed was talking about how much paperwork they had to do to submit those grants. So that was an item. And they met at Tooten Hills in person. I went to the first meeting. They had the Tooten Hills social worker, principal, and teacher present what they're doing for social and emotional learning. And also the technology task force talked about social media, the social media policy, and we're trying to resolve an issue where there's a website that is illegally using our town seal to make it look like it's a real website, and it's not. And if you read it, you'll know it's not. But when it first comes up, it looks similar to other town sites.
Thanks, Wendy. Any other reports? Okay. Was there anything under communication that anyone wanted to raise?
Eric, if I can jump in, it's not an official letter, but I just want to commend all the residents and everybody that was involved in the budget referendum. I was blown away with the participation of the residents and folks in town. And I would even throw out there, in my personal opinion, I think voting at the library was awesome. It was concise. People seemed very upbeat, and it was really nice. So I don't know how we would want to do that in the future, but there may be something to having one site for everybody to go to. It actually worked out really well, I thought.
Thanks, Mike. I enjoyed seeing our registrars in reflective gear directing traffic. That was the highlight for me.
I'm not sure they enjoyed that, but
I'm not sure they did either.
I think they directed Eric somewhere else.
they did a nice job. That was a
great job.
Team effort by all those folks.
Anything else before we adjourn to executive session? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss strategy and negotiations of a pending claim and or litigation, Kavanaugh claim under the Workers' Compensation Act? We'll be joined by Town Manager Maria Capriola and Deputy Town Manager Melissa Appleby.
With that.
Second.
Second.
I heard
3
Daphne.
seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.